What are your top tips for strong response analysis and modality decision making?
Take your time. Don't rush decision. The more time you spend on response analysis and the modality decision making, the more you're ready for the implementation. Take the needed time to prepare and conduct a good need assessment and analyze its data. Use tools such as the decision-making tree to guide your decision. And of course, ask the community which is their preferences to make their life easier.
En tant qu'acteur humanitaire qui utilise le transfert monétaire depuis des années, les conseils que je donne pour vraiment une efficacité donc, de prise de décision, c'est d'utiliser les outils. C'est vrai, il y a plusieurs outils. Pratiquement beaucoup d'acteurs et beaucoup d'ONG acteurs humanitaires ont des outils. Nous, au mouvement Croix-Rouge, on utilise ce qu'on appelle l'outil de prise de décision, modèle de prise de décision. Dans cet outil, il y a beaucoup de paramètres. En fonction du contexte, certains paramètres peuvent changer. Les paramètres qui apparaissent le plus sont la sécurité de la zone, le coût de la modalité ou bien du mécanisme, la préférence des bénéficiaires, l'acceptation par l'État. Donc, une fois que cet outil qui doit être renseigné en équipe est renseigné, la modalité qui prime sur les autres donc, est connue. On doit vérifier la faisabilité opérationnelle de cette modalité, si dans le contexte où on veut mettre en œuvre le programme, est-ce que l'option qu'on a choisie, elle est faisable facilement ou pas. Vérifier aussi la pertinence, donc en tout cas de ces options, et aussi tenir compte des objectifs donc, du programme sectoriel du programme. Est-ce que l'option qu'on a choisie peut nous permettre d'atteindre les objectifs du programme ou pas. Donc voilà en résumé donc les conseils que je peux donner pour une meilleure prise de décision, donc pour mettre en œuvre des programmes ou projets sur les transferts monétaires. Merci beaucoup.
So here, the response analysis is a difficult step, right? Because it's something that a lot of time happen in people's head, and that is and the decision we make at response analysis stage, they are very often biased by our decision-making path. What are the modality we've used in the past? What type of activity have we seen be successful previously? So I think what really helps to have strong response analysis is to have a solid, broad enough situation analysis. And the key, for me, one of the key examples of this is market analysis. Very often, the question we ask market analysis to answer, they are too narrow to lead to a solid response analysis. We only ask market analysis to answer the question, can we do cash or not, as opposed to ask about how market function and do they need support. So if we think about broadening up a little bit the scope of our market analysis, we could actually have more ambitious and stronger response analysis.
In addition to understanding needs, we need to also ensure that there's a really strong and robust understanding of how we analyse those needs, particularly from a joint or intersectoral perspective. In recent years, there's been a lot of attention focused on this issue, and within the new enhanced humanitarian programme cycle, it's an attempt also to guide us, not just within our organisations as we think about what needs are, but particularly within how we as a system consider and prioritise those needs and analyse them from an intersectoral perspective. Throughout the enhanced HPC process, you'll see that there's multiple reflections of the importance of intersectoral analysis, and in addition to that, a transparent discussion and reflection of what modality would be best placed in order to meet those needs. One thing I wanted to point is that not only is there a discussion around modality selection that should happen as we develop what we call our specific objectives, which are about how we, from an intersectoral perspective, meet our overall response, but there's also flags within the HPC about the importance of reflecting, again, modality selection within individual sectoral or cluster perspectives as well. We talk a lot about protracted conflicts. But while we say conflicts may be protracted, they are most certainly not static. Needs change, responses evolve, and each year there's an opportunity through the humanitarian programme cycle to revisit those needs and to reevaluate what would be the most appropriate and effective way to respond to people's needs as they may be changing or evolving throughout the crisis. In terms of making a decision about not only what would be the most appropriate way to respond, we also need to think about issues such as preference and indeed effectiveness. So what would the preferences of affected people be? And is it possible or appropriate to reach those people using that preferred modality? And what is the most effective, and including within that the most efficient way to do so? When it comes to response analysis and modality decision making, a lot of this is reliant upon data, which is very often missing or traditionally has been missing in the past. We want to encourage cash and market actors, wherever they are, to ensure that you're really participating in these processes. Very often decisions are being taken where there may be data that could be provided by a cash and market actor that would be really critical to help support that decision making and indeed ensure that we are, again, in keeping with the most appropriate, feasible, accountable and effective response.
Dans le cas de l'UNICEF en Centrafrique, je dirais qu'on a deux conseils principaux. Le premier, c'est vraiment de travailler avec les bons outils. C'est important d'utiliser un outil qui nous permette de faire une évaluation du contexte, du système des marchés et des préférences des bénéficiaires à l'instant T. On évolue ici dans un environnement qui est très très volatile, aussi bien en termes de sécurité que du système des marchés, et on a besoin d'être sûr de capturer les besoins au moment de l'intervention. Le deuxième conseil que je pourrais donner, et qui est l'un des plus importants, c'est vraiment d'intégrer les départements et les services supports dans l'évaluation de l'analyse des réponses. On a besoin de leurs compétences. On a besoin de leurs compétences pour évaluer la pertinence de la technologie qui sera utilisée, pour évaluer la contractualisation d'un prestataire de services financiers, pour évaluer la situation sécuritaire, mais on a aussi vraiment besoin qu'ils soient présents dans cette évaluation des besoins pour avoir la même compréhension du contexte, de l'évaluation, de l'analyse, et donc être vraiment complètement sur la même ligne lors de la mise en œuvre du projet. Pour le bureau UNICEF en Centrafrique, l'analyse des réponses, c'est vraiment un moment qui est crucial parce que certes, ça sert à déterminer quelle modalité nous allons utiliser, mais ça nous permet aussi de voir s'il y a des opportunités pour faire des approches mixtes. Et typiquement, suite à une analyse des réponses qu'on a fait en début d'année, on s'est aperçu que des réponses en transfert monétaire étaient complètement pertinentes pour venir en complément à une prise en charge nutritionnelle. Et c'est pour ça qu'on vient juste de développer un projet Cash and Voucher qui vient en complément d'une prise en charge nutritionnelle, ayant pour objectif de renforcer la couverture des besoins des ménages, de renforcer leur accès aux services et bien entendu de leur permettre d'avoir une meilleure diversité et quantité en termes d'alimentation.
For response analysis and modality decision making, I would encourage using USAID's modality decision tool, which you can find at tinyurl.com/USG modality tool. What I like about it is that it's systematic about response analysis. So first, think about market appropriateness. Do cash, vouchers, or in-kind make sense for the market? Second, think about feasibility, both operationally and politically. Third, think about your program objective and what you're trying to accomplish and what people prefer. And then fourth, as it should be, think about cost efficiency and effectiveness compared to other modalities. I would also say don't get stuck in a rut. Don't think just because you've always done it one way that this is still the right way. And don't follow the trends. Really look at the situation.
The response analysis should be done with the lens of appropriateness, relevance, and feasibility. Coordination is an integral part of any response analysis for appropriateness and other related functions. In the appropriateness, the response should be non-duplicative to other plans by governments, humanitarian and development partners, Red Cross movement, or other actors. Commentary can be achieved by sharing of information. It can be achieved by sharing of information with each other. In the relevance, I consider that, in the relevance, organizations should consider the beneficiary priorities and the preferences. And the third top tip is about the feasibility check. Of course, in the response analysis, it is very much important and integral part. Consider all factors to check the CVA feasibility, market access and capacity assessment, risk analysis, which may include like protection risk, institutional risk, or programmatic risk, contextual risk, if I may go, legal risk, technology risk, and there are other type of risk which we need to consider, and understanding the political context, skill and capacities development, and cost efficiency and effectiveness. Among the possible response options, cash and voucher assistance is increasingly implemented, but for it is to be feasible, a set of preconditions need to be fulfilled. A wide range of delivery mechanisms for cash and voucher assistance are available, and the selected delivery mechanism need to be fully justified based on the set objective criteria, such as protection risk and beneficiary preferences. Nevertheless, it is important to understand that cash and voucher assistance is just a transfer modality to achieve project outcomes and not an intervention itself.
C'est une question qui est technique en termes des capacités requises pour une bonne analyse de la réponse, mais également stratégique parce qu'elle touche au cœur des défis de la coordination intersectorielle et du système de cluster. Donc ma première recommandation, ce serait d'utiliser l'approche Basic Needs comme point d'entrée. L'approche Basic Needs, c'est un package d'assistance complet qui est centré sur les personnes touchées par les crises et qui requiert une collaboration multisectorielle dans l'analyse, la conception, la mise en œuvre et le suivi, et dont les transferts monétaires font partie. Recommandation numéro 2, c'est qu'en parallèle, il faut vraiment renforcer les capacités en analyse de réponse. Donc, premièrement, en soutenant des organisations spécialisées dans la collecte de données de qualité, comme REACH, et deuxièmement, en diffusant et adoptant les outils et les bonnes pratiques en analyse de réponse, et notamment ceux qui sont référencés dans la boîte à outils du CaLP. Troisièmement, c'est de maximiser le potentiel du processus formel de planification humanitaire, et notamment des modifications apportées au processus depuis 2019 qui permettent une meilleure adoption des transferts monétaires et vraiment s'assurer que le Cash Working Group soit activement impliqué dans ce processus.
So having the right people around the table is very important to be creative and inclusive, but at the same time we need to be very grounded in the reality of the implementation context. So, you know, have that creativity and have that blue sky thinking, brainstorm the ideas that you have, but at the back of your mind, just keep in mind that, you know, this is something that you might have to implement. So what would it actually look like? Don't be afraid of opening the idea out to a broader group of people. There's one thing I really liked in the Haiti earthquake was when, I can't remember who it was, but one agency or donor actually asked earthquake affected populations to come up with ideas themselves as to what was needed. You know, so there's no reason why you couldn't do something like that. So have it driven by the people who are affected. And there's no reason why you couldn't pilot that and then scale it up if it is impactful and has a positive outcome overall. You could also allocate a percentage of your budget towards piloting new ideas, innovation, etc. So you try it out, you test it, and then if it works, then you can scale it up in the next kind of round of funding, etc. Don't forget also to be adaptive in your response analysis. So in contexts where there can be a lot of change, what you could do is build in an iterative kind of nuancing of your response analysis, a kind of adaptive management approach so that you're able to tweak and change your ideas with regards to modalities, delivery mechanisms, approaches, key partners, etc. as you go along. That's perhaps more suitable for slightly longer projects or in projects where there is a lot of change that's taking place.